Hello, everyone. I'm Tina Ducharme. Welcome to my YouTube channel. What I do on this channel is I bring forth celebrities who have crossed over to the other side. And there are certain messages and in the collective consciousness going on right now. And they would like to bring some messages and share those with you. I also take this opportunity to look at their soul contract diagram and go walk you through that and show you the energies that they chose to experience and how that played out for them. And today we're going to talk to an angel, Charlie's angel. We're going to talk to Farrah Fawcett. And we're also going to delve into a little bit about sacred sexuality. She was very much epitomized for her exuding this great sexuality. And if we're not careful, that gets very distorted. And so that was a big challenge for her, as you can well imagine, with her great beauty and the charisma that she carried with her. And we'll talk about how that played out in her chart. So I do want to go ahead and share my screen now. And so we will bring up the beautiful Farrah Fawcett. And the first thing I want to mention is no, I did not spell her name incorrectly. This was her birth name. And this was the name that was on her birth certificate. She changed it to, because, and I'm not sure why, but obviously this was changed to an A. And so it was Farrah Fawcett with an A. And so I'm not sure when that happened, but the name that you were born with, those are the vibrations that you carry throughout your lifetime. And I've talked about the soul contract diagram before, as far as people who have changed their names or take on a different name, or you have a nickname. Those carry their own vibrations, and they do add a little bit to the complexity. But I have chosen here to focus on celebrities' birth names to give you the foundation of the energies that they chose to experience. In Farrah's case, she's a very beautiful lady. She came to me last week, and it was just a couple days ago that I noticed, oh, this is very close to the day that she crossed over, and that was yesterday. And that was about 12 years ago when she made her transition from this incarnation that we're going to talk about. And with the soul contract diagrams, I always tell you that I have a little introductory video that gives you a little bit more background on the history of the soul contract, what it means, how I lay out the charts, and I always put that in the link below. So if you guys are interested in knowing how I come up with all of these numbers in this part, in their particular diagram, that will help you to understand, as I don't like to go into too much of it every time. I do talk about how we always look at the physical aspects first, because those play out primarily throughout, start very early. The spiritual side of our chart, which is this upward facing triangle, usually doesn't start playing in until a little bit later in life. And I'm talking, midlife, maybe. Some people, I see it earlier. It just depends. It depends on how you've worked through these physical aspects here. And we always have these three aspects. In our physical side, we have a karma, a talent, a goal, something that gets us out of bed in the morning, something that is always kind of driving, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And then we have that same thing in on the spiritual side. We have a spiritual karma, talent, and goal. And so your karma is your as I always say, it's not a punishment. It's not something you carried over from previous lives, even though I do want to say we do carry ancestral patterning, and those patterns sometimes play out in a karmic way in this life. And we choose that because we always want to challenge ourselves to overcome those if we struggled maybe in a prior life, struggled with, certain things in our family lines. We always are challenging ourselves to overcome them. And oftentimes our children will either initially take on those challenging patterns and from us and try to help overcome them as well. So there's a little bit of that going on, but the karma is always about your opportunity for growth. And so all of the numbers, as I have said in my introductory video, they all carry positive energies and negative energies. And how you draw those to you, this chart, after you are named, starts to emanate out to the universe, and then it draws to the experiences that are coded in those numbers. Initially, it starts off with the karmic aspects. You'll see that play out through most of your life, and those will be primarily negative. And the reason they're negative is it's meant for you to transmute these numbers into its positive form. And obviously, if you get something that's in a negative way, you tend to want to overcome that, and you want the opposite of that, because primarily we're driven to our positive. That is, we're here, the ego, which is attached to suffering, will kind of keep us small, but it's meant for us to integrate our egos, to become more conscious of what's going on in our lives so that we can overcome these patterns. And it's all part of our ascension process here. So nothing is meant as a punishment. These are energies that you chose to experience. You chose your parents. Again, this chart is derived from the name, which is usually telepathed to the mother or the guardian or the father. And in this case, Farrah's mother just liked this name. She was named after a friend and she liked the sound of it. And so that's how it ended up. But it was pretty much picked from the soul essence of who is Farrah. And so to start off with, and so then we're given talents, and those talents, once we start to work through some of that karma, the talents are really all about helping us to achieve the goals. I mean, so she has a lot of sixes in her chart. So it's the first thing I want to talk about. She's a dominant 6. This will be heavy in her chart, and will those 6s will play out. And so let's talk about the 6s. The 6s are all about, it's a Taurus energy, it's practical, being very strong-willed, which even though Farrah comes across as very soft, she's a soft, very feminine energy, she was very strong-willed. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that played in for her. But the negative side on that is that could make her very stubborn and very rigid. And so then she would have a little bit of inflexibility come when, in a little bit too emotional sense about, my dad used to say things like, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. And that's kind of the energy I'm talking about, being very, that's the negative side of the 6s. The 6, this is here, I'm going to and my mouse so you can see it a little better. So that 6, so right here we are. And she only chose the one aspect. Sometimes we have that blended energy of 2 numbers, but she just chose this number because she really wanted to work on this. And this is all about, it's a very creative number. We call this a convertible knot symbol. And nothing can be manifested in our physical reality without a thought. And that is where everything starts, in the mind. So this is, but as I said, it's also about being too much in your head and being ungrounded and unfocused and manifesting a lot of distractions to keep you from what you should be focusing on. And so I'm sure she struggled at times with that. I remember watching it. I had watched a few interviews with her to kind of get a feel of her energy. Her energy was such a soft mothering energy, and that is prevalent in her chart here. But she, again, she talked about how busy she was, how busy, and had barely any time to rest. And that, people think, oh, it's so glamorous being in movies and those types of things, but it was very hard work. I don't know if things have changed in the industry, but she was working 7 days a week and she was exhausted from the interview that I watched her. And she said she actually fell asleep on the way to this interview because she was just needed rest. And so again, it's about manifesting a lot of distractions and inability then to be able to focus on one thing. So those would be challenges that would come up for her to learn how to focus. And she was, and she has it also in goals, and that is all about, her goal was to be creative and be focused. And she is a very super creative person. She was originally going to college to be an artist, and she was doing sculpting and some painting. And that's what was driving. When we see sixes in your physical goals, there's not 100% free will. I know we all think, oh, we got all this free will. And yes, for the most part that we do. But as far as goals, if you have a six in your goals, you're going to be pushed at a soul level to be super creative. And so I think we could see that in the fact that she did have this very artistic side, but she was also very creative as well in her professional, in the acting side of it as well. She had some super great talents. And that was this 12-3, this blended energy. The 12 is all about Libra energy. It's absorption. It's about, this is a little like watery, and it expands, and it's almost looks like an artist palette here again, very creative. And it's all about love. And she was just exuded this loving, wonderful energy. This is also, she has two mothering energies, this 13-4, we'll talk a little bit in her soul destiny, and this 12-3, very wonderful, soft. When she spoke, she was very soft. Her energy was very soft. And so this was very much, this is all about expansion. And then to have that in your talents, she was always driven to expand. She always wanted more. She always wanted to learn more. I would guarantee you, she felt there was not enough time to do everything that she wanted to do and wanted to learn. And I did watch a little bit of an interview about that, where she talked about learning the craft and knowing, and saying right to the interviewer, I don't feel that I'm a great actress, but I'm working on it. I'm learning everything I can from everyone that will give me a chance. And so she had this great openness about her to absorb and expand. And it gives you an extra incentive to achieve. It's a very good achievement number. And like I said, expanding, and she could see the beauty in everything, and it really made her so loved by so many people. And so the 3, so that's really all about the 12. The 3 is Mars energy. This is all about communication, coming up. This is a little labyrinth that's going inside and drawing out those emotions and expressing those to the world. So she really had to learn to go deep, because the one thing I want to talk about these karmic sixes is they can bring in a lot of frustration and anger. And I had just read something about her too, about some Broadway shows ended up getting canceled. She put all this work and she was very frustrated. See, this is where this manifestation of the blocked creativity and blocked energy comes from. And it feels, and people get so angry because it feels like you're very disconnected from source. We never are, it's an illusion. But you can feel that way, and you can feel that you're not getting anywhere, you're stuck. you don't know what to focus on next, that it was a waste of time. So that's where a lot of the sixes would play out for her. Now the three gives you this, once you learn to speak in kind of a public forum, and we recommend that for people with threes, is to speak and to write. And she had this great, like, this artistic side too, which will give you another level. I'm sorry, my nose is really itching. Another level of energy there to work with. And so these are really in taking great initiative, what she was doing in her career. She was taking great initiative, reaching for the next goal. But this number was all about, it's bringing these concepts in her mind to reality, being these roles that she was taking on, and those types of things. Now, the one thing I want to bring up about these three is that it's tied to sexuality. And she definitely came to me because this is a good time for us to talk about sexuality and sacred sexuality, because sexuality, if you're not careful, can throw you out of balance. And she was struggling with this, being seen as a sex symbol, being admired for that puts you, and she struggled with this. She was getting very blocked becoming a great actress because she was being seen as this objectified and seen as people wanting to use her for that, right? Whether it was in her relationships, whether, it's all about learning self-worth. That sexuality component is something that she wants to talk about because that can really throw you out of balance. She was raised Catholic, and that leads to a whole nother level of having this shame and guilt associated with our sexuality. I work with the energies of Mary Magdalene. She was written basically out of the texts of the church because she was categorized as a prostitute, which I don't believe was true. I think that was again this demonizing of the female sexuality and making it bad, and making and putting this very negative connotation on women, especially women who had this great beauty and exuded this great sexual energy. And again, for her, this was a huge struggle during her life. She wanted to be taken seriously as an actress, but she wasn't being given roles. They weren't caring about her mind. This was all about the body, all about the objectification of her, and capitalizing on that for profit. So this was a real gifted woman, but it like I said, this was what was really playing out for her. The threes can also be, it's called a double number, poverty to wealth. So this is all about self-worth. So this is about her building self-worth. Yes, she would want to make a lot of money. Threes are about making money, but it's deeper than that, because the money is tied to the self-worth. You can have a lot of money and have no inner, and be inner poverty, which is not a good place to be either. So it's a very tricky balance. This can also make you very indecisive, looking to other people to tell you what to do, because it leads you to being indecisive. The sixes kind of give you a little bit of that blocked energy. So I do remember she talked about how she wanted to do this. She was married to Lee Majors for a while, the $6 million man or something back in the 70s. He was this big icon or whatever. So she was married to him, and she wanted to do this movie, and he told her to not do the movie, and then the movie ended up bombing. So what that tells me is that she was trying to find her own way, but she was asking, people were giving their opinions, and then if something failed, I can't imagine how that played out for her then. She'd be like, oh, I have to, asking everybody rather than really going deep inside and seeing if something is really right for you. Because if something is really right for you, it will eventually work out. You have to trust in that flow, trust in what you came here to do will be there. And so I think she struggled a little bit. And so with her physical goals and that creativity, I'm not surprised that she chose, the arts, and then her beauty that she was exhibiting. This 12 is really love and beauty. This 13-4 is this mother, great divine mother, feminine, great, beautiful feminine energy that she didn't have that. She was just so exuding of that. Just a wonderful, wonderful energy. Now, I could see that her spiritual karma started to play out for her probably after she became famous. And I can see it because on the spiritual karmic side, again, it's all about being blocked from knowing your spirit, the spiritual side, what you believe in. You were raised under this religious connotation. What does that mean for you? So she has these great talents. So the 10-1, 1 being a very, very powerful number, and it's all about balance. And it's 10 is a Virgo number. It's analytical, but they're very hard workers. I call this 10-1 usually represents people who are very service driven. The more they serve others, the more they are served. And this gives her great connection to source and a great stability where she was struggling here. So these are just excellent talents to help her to overcome any of that doubts or things that was coming in from the spiritual side. However, I will, so the 1 is all about Archangel Michael energies, and it's great power of insight. Like I said, these are service souls, very centered in their spirit. But what I could see going on with her was this great disempowerment from the masculine, and whether that started with her father. And masculine, it's not always about men, although I see that very heavily in her relationships, right? Being very disempowered in those relationships. And with men, it can be a woman who's very much in her masculine as well. So it's not just a man, although I really could see it was a hugely playing out for her. And her spiritual goals here would have been, this is where she's an Aquarius. Her Aquarian energy comes in here. They're very inventive, independent. She was really pushing that independence and being inventive at the same time to help, again, balancing these physical goals of creativity. This number, you could really start to, as she was trying to gain all of that knowledge for her craft and trying to be inventive with it. She wanted to be taken seriously. She was nominated for awards. She never won any. So she was still really trying to maybe still having a little bit of that self-worth coming in, not feeling she was worthy of winning an award yet for her learning her craft. So that the thing we have to watch about this Aquarian energy again is these are very intellectual people, but they can also be a little bit eccentric. And the negative side, again, it's an ungrounding, which can be very blocked. She doesn't need any more of that going on as she's got all these 6s. That is really pushing on her and gives her limited other numbers to draw from, to overcome. But she does have this, and this is about stating what is her truth, which is in her goals. So it's really about her expressing what she wants. I've watched a couple of just the interviews they used to do with her back then, it was, from my perspective as a woman, they were the most sexist, ridiculous, demeaning interviews I have ever seen. All they did was focus on her body and all of this stuff, really not giving her even an opportunity to really talk about what she was wanting to accomplish. And was stating her truth. A lot of times they would go back to these ridiculous questions, but she would come out and state her truth. And she had to learn she needed to state her truth and not what people wanted to hear. Again, that's a people pleasing thing. You want to be loved, but it's about learning that that's okay to speak your truth, even if it's not somebody else's and it's not what they don't want to hear. This 9 is this dragon energy. 9 is the most powerful number in the chart. And so this would also be, this 9 is great Leo energy. It gives her much more creative. A lot of her warmth probably came from this 9. She was this warm, engaging person. But it also can be vanity and being very prideful. So you have to watch that balance doesn't get out of whack. And that again is, you tend to let other people take over because you're so worried about, we know at a subconscious level how powerful we are. And sometimes we give our power away to others because we're a little bit afraid of it. Maybe we abused our power in a past life. There's a little bit of trepidation there when it comes to dealing with how powerful we are as creators. And so it was really about her taking her power back and doing it with integrity. And that's what these numbers were in her spiritual area. This is about her taking that power back from the masculine, because she was struggling with that in her relationships. Oh my gosh, she was in one of the interviews, she was talking about how she was so exhausted from working all these hours, but she made sure that she would get home to make Lee his dinner, because she was raised in that traditional, the mother, is the housewife and does all of these things, and the father is the breadwinner. And here she was again, we went through this phase where we thought we had to do it all. Then we were supposed to take care of all of these people. She has this wonderful mothering, nurturing side, and people were taking advantage of it because she was trying to create her own career. And eventually, I think her marriage lasted 9 years with Lee, and that doesn't surprise me. That Lee is 9 is the ending of a cycle there, and it was meant for her to take her power back. However, that negative, what the 6s also represent is, it can be addictions. It can be you get addicted to things and maybe to a negative way of being. She always had to, when I was engaging with her, she talked a lot about her body, and it was having to be a certain way. And because once you get into this cyclone, this, whirlwind of what everyone else expects you to be, and one of her first messages that she had given to me was, watch out letting others define who you are and telling you who you need to be, how you need to get there. And so she was being, again, this was that disempowering, and let other people tell you what to do and how to take care of your body, and having to look and be a certain way. And that can be very disempowering, and it can be, and it's meant for you to take that power back. Those are experiences that you chose to draw to you. And part of that, we talked about that, where she could be stubborn and rigid. When she was on Charlie's Angels, she had finally had enough of those types of roles, and she was only on there a year, and then she decided she wasn't going to do that. She was only going to take serious roles, but because she was under contract, nobody would hire her. And she was being very stubborn. I kind of felt that energy when I had read about that, and I was kind of feeling her out on that. And it was, she did end up negotiating because she had to free up so that people would hire her again. So she had to make agreements she would come back for so many episodes. And that's all part of learning that flexibility, not being too rigid, cutting you off your nose to spite your face type of thing. And so again, this was all about find your voice, but do it with grace and integrity. So what does that mean? Find your voice. So if there's something going on in your life that you feel you're being taken advantage of, the first thing is that you need to express that, and you need to do it in not in a over emotional way, but in a very centered and grounded place from your heart. And try to find a balance there, whether it's with somebody you're negotiating, your work, finding that balance. But you need to find your voice first. This is all about the three, is finding that expression, that depth of an emotion, and communicating that. Because if you don't communicate what you want, people don't know, they can't read your mind. And so then it's part of trying to build that negotiation and manifesting what you want as part of kind of the collective. So it's she has this great strong-willed ability, but you have to be careful about not being a steamroller, and especially when you're dealing with contracts and other people are involved, taking your power back and doing it with integrity. And so obviously, the other thing we want to touch on again is she is a very beautiful woman, but she wants you to know that beauty is much more than what you see on the surface. And I did watch an interview where she explained that so beautifully. And she said, beauty is really this fluid movement, how you're feeling on the inside coming out. It's not just this superficial, although a lot of people gravitate, that's very 3D, lower consciousness. This is what was going on in some of these relationships, because during the time in the 70s, even though women were pushing for that equal rights and things, we're so fortunate, so much has changed. We still have, there's still an imbalance going on, but it isn't quite as heavy as it used to. And she really wanted to talk about that, about honoring your sexuality and your body in positive ways. Don't let these people use you and drag you down into this toxic femininity, we call it, through the toxic masculinity. And that's the toxic part of it is these, she had this relationship with Ryan O'Neal, and it was an incredibly toxic relationship. And it really destroys your soul when you're allowing that. Basically, he came across very narcissistic, and really she kept saying how he would, and narcissists are incredible manipulators, but it is all about them. They don't connect to you at a deep emotional level. And she was figuring that out, but they're really good at pulling you back in. So you have to be very careful about their motives. And even she said, I had to look at my own motives, because she was also using that relationship because it was what she thought people wanted to see. It wasn't the loving relationship that was when you have a sacred sexual union. If this is just about objectifying and getting your gratification, these are two very separate things we're talking about. And it's very important to honor your sexuality there, and to remove any of those rigid beliefs and work on those, because they're deeply rooted. And she believes part of the manifestation for her anal cancer, this is a deep seated shame, guilt that is projected on us to keep us in control. And so then she enters this world of all of this very superficial sexual games, manipulation, people using people to get gratification and monetary things. So this is a very tricky environment she was manifesting her way around in, and it was all worth it. She learned so much. She's so grateful for the experiences she has. She is totally forgiven everyone. She doesn't want to come across as a victim. That is not who she was. This is about her taking her power back. And you can't take your power back unless someone is trying to take it away from you, or you're allowing, I should say, someone taking it away from you. So again, we want to work with the energies of Mary Magdalene. I personally do start investigating other avenues for releasing a lot of this projected shame and guilt on the sexual part of our beings, especially for women. And for men, it's all about connecting at a much deeper emotional level, because they have been also so shut off from their emotions and told this is all about conquering. I watched probably the worst interview with her and Ryan together, and it was nauseating, the level of objectification that was going on from him to her, and how he was not supporting her at an emotional level. Coming into sacred union with somebody can build this great strength of creativity and create balance in your life. It can, and it can be used for good. It's strengthening light bodies. It does wonderful things if it's used in the right way, just as anything. So the last part I wanted to talk about with her actual chart, here's this 13-4, and that is this wonderful divine mothering energy that we call these Christ consciousness energies. It's about union, bringing in, uniting, knowing about the whole. It's again great mothering, but it is usually associated with an experience with your own mother. Usually it starts off in a negative way. And I know there's a couple of things I want to talk about. When she was a child, her mother was very ill. And so her sister, who was only like 11, and she might have been 2, her sister, I think, was a little bit older than her, and don't quote me on that, but her sister ended up having to take her to school with her because her mother couldn't care for her when Farrah was really little. And I want to say like 2 to 5 or something, for several years. So she didn't really get her own mother. And so what this does is, this is all about healing those mother wounds that we have and becoming a great mother ourselves in our lifetime. And I know she had a son with Orion, and he's really struggling in his life. So I'm not sure how much of that, obviously, we have to take responsibility for our own charts and our own life. And he picked Farrah and Ryan as mother, but obviously there was some things going on there. But this gave her such great sensitivity and more creative. And when you have a 13-4, your goals are expanded. And she has all this great expansive. I mean, she sold the most posters. And it's just all of this expansive energies. 18-9s, I call that kind of the project manager, somebody who can see something from start to finish. She may initially in her life struggled with finishing projects. I bet she did, where she could get people to finish things she started, because that's procrastination is a big one here, and getting other people to do your work for you. So you got to kind of, I'm sure she grew out of that. The negative side of this, which I could see a little bit in her, is a self-destructive escapism and not willing to commit. And so we saw that after she divorced Lee and she had this long relationship with Ryan, she never did commit to another relationship. She never got married. That is definitely played out here. And this 4 was really that radiation of spirit for sun energy. This is where that sunny just exuded from her, even as a young child, that she was very, people would attract to her. This is a very energy that people can attract to you. This same as this 12-3. I mean, it's just was a wonderful energy for her to have in her soul destiny. And it being in her soul destiny was really about her coming into this Christ consciousness energy and being forgiving and loving and nurturing and, and connecting to God in the flow of abundance in your life. So we can see how a lot of this has played out for her. And there was one other things I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, that 4 was a double number about the barren to fruitful. Again, we saw that with her. She didn't have any children in her first marriage, and then with Ryan, she was having this urge to want to have a child, and so then she did. Because children are about us learning the selfness, that unconditional love, and then that's usually with a 13-4, people will have children because then that opens us up to loving again, and from those deep mother wounds and loving, and so then we learn that through our own children. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Sorry, my nose still is itching. Sometimes that happens when I'm communicating, is that I'll get this little tickle here. It's like they're reminding me that they're here. Don't worry, everything's going fine. So again, she's such a wonderful energy to work with, and she definitely wants to hit home on the sacred sexuality part and have people start really looking into that and really starting to learn. There is a couple of different books, one by Mercedes Kirkel with Mary Magdalene, The River Flows or something like that. I'll have to look that up and put in the description box below. And there was another I was reading, The Sex Magic of Isis and Horus. I'll put both of those down below, and those talk about sacred sexuality and what that means, and it gives you a little bit of that background and how to channel that appropriately in your life. We all have these gifts to connect to all these different angels. Mary Magdalene I have been working with her energy for many years now, and it's so loving, and it has helped me to release my own guilt around sexuality and the shame and all of that, which keeps you in a very low vibrational state and can keep you from manifesting the things you desire, because then it becomes a worthiness issue. So we're going to, Farrah would like to start with the Secret Language of Light, Transmissions from Your Soul deck. She's such a beautiful energy, even now she just radiates just this bright light. And so Ask Your Soul comes up first. I just love, this is a beautiful, beautiful card. Look at the hearts. And this is just how I see her coming down. I mean, she's just blindingly bright, just a very, very bright soul. I think she's been here many times, and she's really, it was amazing what she exuded. There was one thing else I wanted to say, a couple of things, sorry, that she just reminded me of. When she was a young child, one of the, somebody tried to drag her off. I think she was like 7, and she ended up fighting and getting away, but it really had an impact on her that was really traumatic, where somebody was really trying to molest her. And then there was another incident when she was older. I don't know if it was in college, and then there was an intruder that came into their room, and there's like 4 girls, and they called the police. But at this time, Farrah took her power back, and she went after this person, and the girls came with them, and the 4 of them took him down and held him to the police. So this is again about taking your power back and not allowing this abusive, toxic person. But when she was doing her movies later in life, I want to talk about this creativity that she had, this inventiveness. When she did The Burning Bed, that was again a story about an abused person who ends up taking her power back, not in the most positive way. We don't encourage murdering people, but again, do you see how that was part of her path? And then she was playing out those parts in different ways, which to me, those are positive ways to play out things like murder and those types of things, is do it through acting. But it also would bring people at an emotional level through those movies to generate compassion, things that we need to have come out. So she did an excellent job with that. And then there was another Broadway play or something she was in where she was raped and then went after her rapist. And so I could kind of see this pattern of her, this abuse with her sexuality that she was exuding, and this toxic masculinity trying to take that and use it, and then her taking her power back. So she wanted me to mention those things. So now we'll get back to the Ask Your Soul card. And so it says, something you have asked for will soon turn up in your life. Every time you request something, you plant a seed in your quantum field or vibrational reality where it begins to grow and move towards you. This is how we create and expand our consciousness. Asking is the first step in any creation. It only needs to be about 10% of the creative process, but somehow most of us make it about 90%, where we're asking and asking, and we're so focused on it that we never allow it to come in. I'm learning that as well, allowing. If we don't see any evidence our desires are coming into existence, we keep asking. This holds us in place where the answers can't be heard. What you desire is on its way. You only need to ask once. It doesn't matter whether this is out loud or in your mind, because the universe interprets vibrations, not words. So here is some ideas for you to deal with this asking, is to allow yourself to dream about the kind of life you desire and then write down your dream and then let it go. Try sprouting seeds to add to your salads and cooking. They are nutritious, delicious, and full of life force. So your diet, taking care of the body, very important. This is our temple. We need to take care of it. Listen to what you talk about. What seeds are you sowing for your future life? Okay, be that inner witness. How do you talk to others? Are you negative? Are you gossiping? She was always hated the gossip and the false stories. And so what are you projecting? Who are you talking about? Remember, we want to get to a place where we support each other and we don't talk about each other. That is hard to do because we're always in this duality where we want to compare and make ourselves feel better by maybe putting someone else down. So it's just start to become that inner witness and recognize when you're kind of bringing yourself down. And that can also, she wants to mention, make you feel very disempowered, keeps you in a very disempowered state. When you're talking very negatively about yourself and your life, what you haven't accomplished, those types of things too. So we are going to pick an angel card because this is all about talking to the angels. Main angel, target's angel, Farrah. So this is a wonderful angel. This is called Green Tara, Supreme Protection. You are protected, cords are being cut, move beyond limitation, trust. So these are things that she wants us to know, that we are always protected. You can protect yourself. It's very important for you on a regular basis to be clearing cutting cords of people who are attaching them to you. She wished she didn't really have a practice here, and she wished she knew more about that. She's like, next life, I'm gonna get on that train. First, you cut the cords, then you align yourself with the truth of who you are, and then you put up your protective shield. A lot of people put their protective shield up, but they haven't done the clearing and the aligning first. And so you're kind of locking in other people's attachments to you. Kyle Gray does a great, he's an angel expert, and he does a great method of, he calls it like how you do your face routine, where you cleanse and clean and, you know, what do they call it? Tone, and do all these routines. And so he's got a little angel for that as well. So, and this is how you move beyond limitations. This is the Kyle Gray deck that I am using because he's the angel expert. And so it says, legend has it that, oh boy, this is her name, Avalokitesvara, the personification of perfect compassion. So we just talked about with her movies, and eliciting this great compassion for women who are being abused, can't get out of their, are feeling stuck and can't get out of their situations and take their power back. Was looking down on earth one day and cried tears when he witnessed all the suffering in the world. When the tears hit the earth, a lotus formed from which Tara, this is Tara, the green Tara, but this, I don't know who Avalokitesvara, I can't say that word. I don't know who he was. Anyway, so Tara, the goddess of compassion and light, was born. She has many forms based on different colors, and we have chosen green in this oracle because she brings a light of protection and safety with her. Always compassionate and loving, she helps us move into a new state of being and doing. So our next card I am being drawn to is Sacred Destiny Oracle. What would Farrah like to say from Denise Jarvie? That one felt good. Flexibility. Again, we talked about that. Those sixes. Blocked energy, frustration, rigidity, stubbornness. And so she's got, I love this, the tiger. The tiger is very divine energy as well. I love that picture. Bamboo in the wind, flexibility. The symbolism of bamboo runs deep. Whereas many larger, seemingly stronger trees will break in high winds, bamboo simply bends and sways. Its flexibility allows it to survive and even thrive while other species suffer. Even during a hard winter when its branches are laden with snow, bamboo doesn't break. It snaps back when the snow melts in the spring. It also has a strong root system so that even during great storms it survives. Additionally, it is often a symbol of abundance because its rapid growth, its upward verdant, constant growth is used as a metaphor for fulfilling the rise of prosperity. The meaning of this card is rich and varied. It cautions you to be flexible in your life, be willing to bend and yield. There are times to stand strong, but there are also times to go around a situation rather than face it head on. Intuition, use that intuition. This card suggests being amiable to change. It is also a fantastic card for abundance and prosperity. And it suggests that if you are flexible, prosperity can and will come your way in all areas. Additionally, it suggests that a time of rapid growth is ahead. Don't resist it. The time is right for this surge of spiritual growth to occur. So she wants you guys to know that it's coming. Be patient and be flexible. So we're going to hit on the archetype cards. And so what these are is they give us light and the shadow aspect. And so we'll see what bring out here. So, okay, so here we go. The rebel, huh? She wants us to talk about that rebel attitude. Rebel. So the light attribute to the rebel is challenges authority to affect social change, rejects spiritual systems that do not serve the inner needs. We talked about that, the sacred sexuality, religion. I have no judgment there because it can have such wonderful traditions with it, and loving and the community part of it. But be very careful about the lower vibrations, about the fear-based, the judgment, again, that shame, the putting down, the patriarchal system that is where it's moving into balance. And so that is really being shaken up right now. And that's going to continue. So the shadow side is it rejects legitimate authority out of anger, rebels out of peer pressure or fashion. So if you're just going along with the flow, or sticking up for people because they're friends, instead of being true to yourself and true to who you are, those are things she really wants you to look at right now. Because rebel can be, if it's channeled properly, that energy can be definitely make a lot of social change. And so thank you for sharing that with us. And of course, I was spoken to by Archangel Metatron, one of my buddies. It's a self-mastery deck I've been working with. Okay, and so then what comes up is the Metatron Rainbow Bridge, and I've got my Metatron, my Archangel Michael spray, which also is connecting. Get these from Amanda Ellis. Love these sprays. They help us to connect with the higher realms. So this is the Metatron Rainbow Bridge. Always open. Again, we're talking about talking to angels, talking to Mary Magdalene about the sacred sexuality, but talking to angels is really important. Those are, whether it's your guides, if you resonate with the angels, ask. And I mean, not ask like we were talking about, but talk to them, start dialogues, ask the universe to show you the way they will, but you have to pay attention to what they're showing you. So the Rainbow Bridge is never closed. It is always open and offers a portal through which you can be in touch with those you have loved but have now passed over. Archangel Metatron watches over this bridge and helps carry those who are dying over it when their time to complete their earthly incarnation is done. No one crosses over this bridge before their soul has agreed to go. It is a bridge of light that eases transition, comforts the soul, and signals to those waiting to greet the new, tired soul that a celebration on the other side of the veil is to happen. Healing and recuperation may also be needed, so this is organized too. She definitely needed some time after she had made her transition over to heal. It was very draining, all of that. Like I said, those people, those cords that were attached to her, drawing her energy from her, they really will suck the life so out of you. She was like, I needed a lot of rest and support. Her mother was there, and her sister. Your soul family is over there, and so they will support you. And she needed that time. She worked hard here. So this was a very difficult time. She had great success. I'm not saying she had wonderful things in her life, but she also had great challenges. No one crosses the rainbow bridge alone, and all are met by angels and by those whom they have known in this life as well as past lives. You are pulling this card to remind you that those you love are still with you. You may no longer be able to see them in physical form, but they are just as real in spiritual form as they ever were to you. Their love for you remains strong, and they are around you now, bringing comfort, support, and love, just as they would have done if they were still here on earth. Where they now reside is across the rainbow bridge, but you are always joined with them. Just as the rainbow has one foot in heaven and one foot on earth, you are entwined as you always were. Love cannot die. It simply changes and evolves. It may be that you struggle to feel your loved one's spirit, but rest assured they are with you. Look for the signs. A simple scent in the air, a soft breeze from nowhere, a feather where you least expect it, sunlight pouring into a shaded room. Messages from the other side are varied and will increase at times when you struggle with grief and acceptance of what is rather than what was. You are encouraged to grieve if you need to. Allow Metatron to hold you and help you, but also to live your life now anew with firm intent and commitment to the life force in you in the days still left to spend on this side of the rainbow bridge. One day you will be united with those you have lost, but not yet and not now. Both they and Archangel Metatron urge you to live, love, and enjoy the life you have, an incarnation never to be repeated again, with the blessings and gift you now possess. Just as the rainbow requires rain and sunlight to create it, so too must a life include the joyful times and the sad times, colors of experience, growth, and energy that interweave to make you the unique being that you are. Remember, you are loved here on earth and in heaven. Metatron stands as the in-between point, helping you feel it all. Pulling this card may also imply that you have special gifts for offering help to those who grieve or to the sick and dying. It is also often chosen by those who are able to convey messages from spirit to help others. So there's many light workers and healers watching or will be watching. So there's your message. So the final card we always pick from the Matt Kahn deck. I love Revolution. Yay, Matt. And it's our mantra for this, for what Farrah would like to convey. Activating the third eye. I am willing to see beyond my beliefs, ideas, and conclusions. She would like you to expand your third eye. There's many meditations on that. Aaron Doty, he's great at expanding your consciousness. Melanie Beckwith has some third eye opening meditations that are really good. I think she's Melanie Beckwith with Ask Angels. So we are talking about angels, aren't we? So one really great mantra. I want to personally thank Farrah for sharing her energy and time and sending me messages and helping us to grow. I'm so appreciative of that. I give her so much love. So with that, thank you. And if you haven't said these 3 words to yourself, today, look in the mirror and say, I love you. Self-love, that's where it starts. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. See you in the next video.